Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. We're gonna have to see if Bernie actually stays back here. You guys have been commenting asking where my pets are. Normally I have a pet in the background, whether it's one of my cats or one of my dogs, sometimes even one of my rabbits. And ever since I moved out to this studio, which is in my backyard, it's like a garage essentially that I'm filming out of. My dogs don't want to see, he's gonna leave. I don't know why. It's so weird. He used to love sitting up on the back of that. Like every time I would film, he would just jump right up there, but he doesn't want to. It's like he's scared of falling off the back ever since I moved it in here, which is weird because it's not like it was pushed up against the wall in the room that I was filming in. I don't know what his deal is, but he's back there. A lot of you guys were asking, where's the little white dog? He's chilling in the back. I wish I could get my cats to come out here, but they're indoor cats. Bringing them into any new space that they're not used to. If you're a cat owner, you get it. Anyway, today we are going to be talking about a missing woman, a missing Indigenous woman, Ashley Loring HeavyRunner. This one is very frustrating, and it was difficult to pull together all the information on because, of course, in most Indigenous cases, the reporting is very, very minimal, which is extremely sad. I've spoken about this on my channel before, but Indigenous women, especially missing women, are just historically, systematically proven not to get the same attention from law enforcement, from media, compared to other cases. It's astounding to see the difference. And according to the Justice Department, Native American women are 10 times more likely to be murdered in their lifetime. And I don't think the average person is aware of just how bad it actually is. 80% of Native women will experience some type of violence in their lifetime. And here's a crazy statistic for you. In 2016, 6,000 Native women were reported missing, and only 116 of those women were logged in the National Missing Persons Database.
In Indian country, everybody knows somebody.
A sister, an auntie, a mother that was murdered or went missing. This is our life. This is what we're born into.
There is an epidemic of violence against Native women that just isn't being prosecuted and investigated effectively, and people are getting away with these crimes.
There's so many bureaucratic cracks that Native women and girls are not just falling through, but actively pushed through.
There's a phrase in Indian country that when a Native American woman goes missing, she disappears twice. Once in life and once in the news.
So there's a lot to go over here, a lot to talk about. But before we get into Ashley's case, I did want to let you guys know that the Her Justice and Sandwich Shop collaboration bracelets have been restocked. You guys have been selling these babies out really fast. Every time we think we have enough stock, you guys sell it out in like 24 hours. So if you guys are not familiar, I linked up with my friend Zach, who owns a shop called The Sandwich Shop, and they make beautiful jewelry that is ethically sourced and very high quality. Zach and I worked together to create 5 bracelets that are themed around my channel, themed around Her Justice, and my podcast as well. And 20% of the profit from this collection is donated directly to Her Justice. Fantastic organization. And if you purchase the entire collection, all 5, 25% will be donated, which is great. Her Justice is a nonprofit that helps low-income women in New York access legal services in the areas of family, matrimonial, and immigration law as well.
Our clients are incredibly strong, and many of them have survived great hardship. What they don't have is access. Her Justice makes sure that our clients receive that access by connecting them with private attorneys from around the city so that our clients have access to the legal tools that give them safety, security, and self-sufficiency. As a lifelong New Yorker, I'm proud to be part of the Her Justice community, where we shift the power to the low-income women who call us every day, who are seeking to build safer and more secure lives for themselves and their children.
Give her opportunity.
Horia.
Dignity.
Shivang.
Give her courage.
Security. Access.
Compassion.
Un mejor futuro. A new beginning.
Give her justice.
There are 5 pieces total in the collection. We have the Sun, the Her Justice, the Mountain High, the universal investigator, and the star alignment. Each design has its own unique meaning, and you can learn about each individual bracelet on the Sandwich Shop website. So if you want to get your hands on one, act fast because these always sell out really quickly. Obviously, Sandwich Shop is a small business and they can only make so many each restock. So definitely get your hands on one. And thank you to everyone who has bought one so far. Thank you from Her Justice. They're incredibly thankful for the donations we've made. I love this collection. I love how they turned out. I wanted to quickly highlight the Her Justice bracelet itself. This one is definitely one of my favorites in the collection. It has a beautiful charm on it as well that shows two hands kind of linking up at the pinkies. They're just so thoughtfully designed and beautiful, and I'm so grateful for this collaboration. But anyway, let's go ahead and get into this case. There is a lot to go over. Also, I think I have been talking too close to my mic. There were a lot of comments on the last video. I think it's because I podcast, and normally when you podcast, you talk a lot closer, but I think I've been talking too close for the mic settings in here. So hopefully this is better for you guys. I've been seeing a lot of comments that are not loving how close I am to the mic or some of the sounds. So I'm going to try to sit a little bit back. Hopefully it's not too quiet or anything like that. We will have to see. It's a lot of trial and error. Okay, so Ashley Loring HeavyRunner. She was born in November 1996 on the Blackfeet Indian Reservation in Browning, Montana. Her parents are Loxie and Roy Loring HeavyRunner, and she has two sisters, Kimberly and Johnny Lynn. When she was younger, her and her sisters did spend a little bit of time, just a few months, in foster care before they went to live with their grandparents at the reservation. And growing up, Ashley was an excellent kid. She was very easy. She never really got into trouble. She was always a joy to be around, and she was very smart. She was a good student.
She was also incredibly humble about it. Every time she'd, get a paper back and got a good grade, she'd say, "Really? I got an A?" or "Really? I got a B? Me?"
Ashley was always very kind to everyone she met. She was a very genuine person and always willing to help people who were around her. In 2017, when she was 20 years old, she enrolled in Blackfeet Community College, where she was studying environmental science. She loved nature. She loved animals, specifically horses, and she was very passionate about the environment. She was very close with her sisters. Here's a clip of her sister, Johnny Lynn, just talking about how important Ashley was to her.
Ashley is a beautiful and amazing person, my inspiration, my protector, and my angel. Every time I think about my sister, I just think about her smile. Everybody wanted to talk to her. She was so beautiful and outgoing. Ashley knew no stranger.
So in March of 2017, Ashley called her sister Kimberly and asked if she could come stay with her in Missoula. She wanted to go to University of Montana. And at the time, Kimberly told her that she was about to go on a 3-month trip to Morocco to visit her boyfriend, but that she could come and stay with her when she got back. The two of them were very close. They spoke regularly, and they were very excited about the idea of moving in together. So Kimberly was set to arrive back June 8th, 2017. But 3 days prior, on June 5th, Kimberly got a message from Ashley on Facebook asking her for some money. Kimberly responded and asked if she was okay, and Ashley's response was, "Always. What about you?" She responded that she would be back on the 8th around 10 p.m., and then she asked Ashley if she was at home, and all Ashley said back was no. Kimberly didn't follow up or ask any more questions because it was going to be only a couple of days until she saw her sister in person, and she figured they would catch up. But after 10:25 p.m. on June 8th, she never heard anything from Ashley. And she thought that was odd, considering Ashley was so excited to move in with her, excited for her sister to be back. So Kimberly checks Facebook Messenger and was able to see that Ashley was active 18 hours prior. So she starts messaging a few of Ashley's friends to see if anyone had heard from her, and everyone said they hadn't heard from her since June 5th. Which was the day that she originally messaged Kimberly on Facebook. She thought this was weird, but the Loring family wasn't that worried because Ashley was actually notorious for losing her phone or breaking her phone, and they figured it was something like that and she would get back to them all shortly. But the fear really started setting in when Roy Loring, her father, was admitted to the hospital, and everyone in the family started trying to get a hold of Ashley, and she wasn't replying to anybody. That's when they knew that something bad must have happened, and she would not just leave them all hanging or not be concerned and get back about her father. That just was unlike her. So they contacted Blackfeet law enforcement for help, as well as the Bureau of Indian Affairs, known as the BIA. So Kimberly kept talking to a bunch of Ashley's friends, and eventually she found out that Ashley attended a party on June 5th, that same day that she received the Facebook message. And it seemed like none of her friends had seen her since that party. Now, there was a video of her at the party circulating online. It has been deleted now, but I guess it was of Ashley holding a drink on a couch. Blackfeet law enforcement conducted an initial search for Ashley, and they looked for 3 days and nothing turned up. Now, for context, the Blackfeet reservation spans more than 1.5 million acres. It's huge. It's larger than the state of Delaware. And since day one, Kimberly has been incredibly courageous and outspoken about her sister's disappearance. And in interviews, she has talked about what she has been able to kind of gather about her sister's actions the night of June 5th. And one thing that Kimberly found out was that the night of the party, June 5th, Ashley had a very strange interaction with her father. On the night of June 5th, Ashley ran into her parents' house and quickly started closing all of the blinds, and she seemed panicked. She kept telling her father that she did something over and over, but wouldn't say exactly what she did. And soon after she arrived at the house and closed all the blinds, a car pulled up on the property, and her dad said that he went out to see, went to the window to see who it was, and Ashley kind of scolded him and said not to look. He said she seemed angry with him for looking, so he agreed not to look. But Ashley ended up leaving the house, got in this car with whoever pulled up, and left. And based on the timeline, it's kind of assumed that Ashley went directly from their house to this party. This was a house party that was thrown by this guy named Vernon. And 2 weeks after Ashley went missing, a tip came in from someone who said they saw a young woman running from a vehicle on Highway 89. Kimberly and her family acted quickly on this tip, and they searched that entire stretch of highway and the surrounding area. And when they did that, they came across something that they think is crucial evidence. They found a pair of red-stained boots and an extremely torn-up sweater. So their family's search team bagged up these items and obviously sent them in to be processed as evidence. They were sent to the BIA, and they were told that they would be processed for DNA. And later they learned, like in so many cases, that these items just sat untouched in a box for months. And there are some reports out there that the sweater itself just went missing completely.
It was the last thing she was wearing, I guess. We turned it over to the police. They would just put it in a room for months.
And Kimberly and her family believe that if they weren't conducting their own search for Ashley and bagging up evidence, that nothing would be done at all by law enforcement. And she's most likely right, statistically right.
If me and my family didn't search for Ashley, I don't think anybody would be looking for her.
Blackfeet law enforcement and the Bureau of Indian Affairs did not take Ashley's case seriously at all, to any level, for the first 2 months. It wasn't until then that they kind of started taking it a little more seriously. But as we all know, when it comes to missing people, the first few days, first few hours, definitely first few months are the most important and the most crucial if you're going to be able to find somebody. Blackfeet law enforcement said that they were doing what they could, but they have incredibly limited funding and resources, so their capabilities are limited. And this is true for law enforcement agencies in almost all reservations.
Should be staffed up to like 50 officers, but fortunately, money is a big issue.
And in addition to lack of funding, it's also just a logistical nightmare trying to decide who actually has jurisdiction of the reservation.
Fundamentally, you have 3 different governments who are responsible for protecting public citizens in Indian country: the federal government, state governments, and tribal governments. And anytime you get three governments together to try and do anything, it becomes challenging.
And this is not well known, but tribes actually can't charge anyone with major crimes. They have to instead wait out federal agencies to take action. And what's incredibly heartbreaking is when Ashley was in school, she learned about the missing and murdered Indigenous women's crisis and wanted to give back. She wanted to help and get involved in that in some way, make a difference. And it's just so sad thinking that she ended up becoming a part of that crisis. So going back to the sweater and boots that were found by the family. The area that they were discovered in is close to a remote lake house that belonged to a man named Sam McDonald. And Sam ended up being a crucial part of Ashley's final days before she went missing. The night of the party, June 5th, Ashley was trying to get a ride home with someone. Now, this whole night is very foggy, but according to this kid named Timmy that was at the party, Ashley wanted to leave with this one group that were headed out in their car, and they didn't let her join them because she was too drunk. And then it's rumored that after this, Ashley somehow got to a different house that was owned by a guy named Big Al. Apparently, when she's at Big Al's house, she was talking to Sam, who I mentioned earlier, Sam McDonald. They were just talking in the kitchen, and for reference, Sam is 50, Ashley is 20. And there's a really weird interview with Sam. I want to insert a clip of it here. He's asked why he hangs out with younger people, and his answer is just incredibly odd.
Somebody asked me one time, Sam, what's wrong with you? Why do you go out with these young girls? Is there something wrong with me? Why would a 20-year-old want to go out with a 55-year-old?
Meth.
Party? Like Dwight Yoakam says, pretty little girl and jug of wine, that's what it takes to make a honk-tonk time? What's the difference?
Now, according to Sam, Ashley comes up to him at the party and tells him that she wants to leave with him. And according to Sam, the two of them left and they drove up to a cabin where they partied for 6 days straight. And at the time, Sam was a meth addict. He says he's not anymore, and mainly he says that's because Ashley went missing and he needs to find her. But he claims that Ashley did drugs with him. And despite her mostly trouble-free life, Ashley had recently started drinking and doing drugs. And this part of her life wasn't a secret to Kimberly. She knew about it. She knew her sister had been struggling since the passing of their grandfather especially. And she went through a breakup recently with her first love that just devastated her. Like I said, Sam said that they went and partied for 6 days straight. He said that they did drugs, but he wouldn't specify what drugs specifically they did. He also said that while they were at this cabin partying, there were many times during the day that she would disappear into the woods and then just randomly reemerge a few hours later. And when he would ask her where she went or what she was doing, she would just say, "I was over there," and point to the woods. Of course, this is just Sam's version of events. We don't know if this is how it actually played out. But he also said that the two of them were sexually involved. And all we know is that Sam says he last saw her on June 11th. He said that after all those days together of them doing drugs, possibly having sex, partying, that he thought it was time for her to go home. He claims that he told her she needs to go back and check in with her family and reset. So he and Ashley got in his car and began driving down the mountain. And while they were driving, he says that Ashley was texting someone and eventually told him to pull over at this corner because she had another ride that was coming to pick her up. And this was apparently a man that she called V-Dog. And Sam says that while he was waiting for her to be picked up, he decided to take a little snooze. He leaned his seat back and closed his eyes.
We had been up for days, and just like that, I went to sleep. And when I woke up, she was gone.
He said that he told Ashley to wake him up when V-Dog arrived, but she never did. By the time he woke up, 40 minutes had passed, and Ashley was gone. And Sam also says that he was very worried about Ashley when he woke up and she was just gone, and that he spent an hour looking for her, driving up and down the road and calling out her name. And when he couldn't find her, he decided that she'd likely been picked up by this V-Dog person that she said she would be, and he drove home.
And I thought, well, she must have got a ride, V-Dog.
According to Sam, when he started seeing the missing persons posters for Ashley, he decided to call law enforcement and tell them what he knew. He also claims to have helped search for Ashley, but Kimberly has said that he has absolutely not done anything to help with the search. Kimberly also says that he has cameras up by his house and he's never shown anyone the footage on those cameras. And he also started remodeling his house right after she went missing. And Sam has a reputation for making women feel uncomfortable. One person even told Kimberly, Ashley's sister, that Sam has some type of secret room in his house, and that one time he locked this girl in there. There's not a lot of elaboration on this secret room or what exactly Sam's deal is or his past, but there seems to be a general consensus among women who have had contact with him that he is just not a great guy. Now, we actually find out that this V-Dog person is actually a guy named Paul Valenzuela, and he has an extensive criminal history that includes arrests for burglaries and also weapons convictions as well. And at the time, Paul was in a very unstable relationship with a girl named T. Her full name is Tashina Running Crane, but she just goes by T, T-E-E. Now, despite being married to T, Paul was also allegedly having a sexual relationship with Ashley. T actually knows Kimberly. I'm not sure exactly how they had a connection, but they did. And Kimberly was actually able to reach out to T to ask her if she knew anything about Ashley. And that's when T tells Kimberly that she needs to talk to Paul. Specifically, she said, Paul has her. He gave her a ride and he knows what happened. So Kimberly calls up Paul to ask him about Ashley, and when she did, he totally freaked out on her. He told her that T was lying and that she was the one who knew what happened to Ashley, not him. He also said that she knew a lot more than she was saying. So between Sam, T, and Paul, it's kind of been a situation where they're all pointing fingers at each other for who's actually responsible, and it's just going around in circles. Paul claims that T found out that Ashley was sleeping with him, and she was so angry that she killed Ashley because of it. And T claims that she didn't even know about their relationship until after she went missing. However, there's a text conversation between Kimberly and T that leads you to believe she knew more. T says, Paul's got her. He divorced me. He moved to Seattle, or they're both in Shelby at Motel 6 or G-Funk, but she's blonde now. He makes me sick. He's 50 years old. I'm preggo, but I'm not going to have this sick fuck's baby. Kimberly says, would you be willing to talk to Kyle or anyone? How do you know all of this? And the color of her hair? What car is he driving right now? Do you have pictures of Ashley with this hair? To which she said, I wish. No, my friend said she's seen her in Walmart, G-Funk, and she has a different profile. Now, unfortunately, all of this was made up because when Kimberly and law enforcement actually went to that motel, Paul was there, but he was with T, and she had dyed her hair blonde. T has also said that Paul is trying to set her up for Ashley's disappearance. And T actually posted a 14-minute video talking about all this called Setup to YouTube, and it's since, of course, been deleted. But this video was apparently an audio recording between her and her friend Marina. I guess in this video you can hear T talking about how Paul was trying to set her up for Ashley's disappearance, but she has an alibi for the day that she went missing.
I wanted to know if it was possible about the bill. Basically, he has Ashley. Everybody in this town knows it.
So Paul and T, I guess, split their time between Seattle and the Blackfeet reservation. But at the beginning of June, I guess the two of them were in Seattle. But sometime around June 8th, T claims that Paul left her. In fact, she says he kicked her out of a car. And court records do confirm that Paul was in the state of Washington in early June. But these records also show that Paul stated he was going to go back to the reservation on June 9th, collect his belongings, and then would return to face his sentencing for a weapons charge that he had been previously arrested for. And T claims that in those 2 days, between the 9th and the 11th, he would have had enough time to go and pick up Ashley. But T has also changed her story from Paul being involved to blaming Sam for Ashley's disappearance. And I know this is getting confusing, but hang with me. T says that Sam has a son named Doug, and that Doug told her, T, that he knows that his father choked out Ashley. Apparently, this was because Sam was jealous of Paul, that Ashley was involved with another man. So T has suggested that when Sam and Ashley were waiting for Paul, V-Dog, to come pick her up, that he got jealous and he killed her out there in the woods. She also claims that she's helped Kimberly and her family search for Ashley. But again, Kimberly has said that she has done absolutely nothing to help them. Eventually, T ended up leaving the reservation for good because she said all of the rumors and allegations were too much to handle. And as for Paul, he was supposed to return to Washington and face his weapons charge, but he ended up evading capture for several months until September 2017. He was finally arrested at that point and sentenced to 20 months for his weapons crime. Now, Sam also claims that he is being framed by T and Paul. He even said that Paul's brother called him and let him know that they were trying to frame him. Sadly, not a lot of information is available on this. The triangle of blame between the three of them has just gone on and on and on, but without any solid evidence, police have been unable to make an arrest. And because it's an active case at this point, law enforcement is not making any comments. Now, there is actually another suspect or theory that I haven't mentioned yet. On January 18th, 2018, after Ashley had been missing for quite a while, her father, Roy, actually suffered a seizure and passed away. And at her father's funeral, Kimberly was approached by someone and told that Big Al knows something. That's all she was told. Big Al knows something. No further context about what that means. And shortly after her father's funeral, a man named Big Al turned up dead. His torso was found by tribal police. However, they never recovered his head or his hands. And his killer was a guy named Jason Matson. And not long after he killed Big Al, he actually called up police and confessed to killing him, and also said that he was holding a family member captive. And he also said that he planned to kill this person and mentioned that he enjoyed killing. And eventually there was a 4-hour standoff between police and Jason, and this girl, whoever it was eventually recovered and let go. He was then arrested for Big Al's murder. I know all that's really confusing. Again, with limited reporting on these cases, it makes it so much harder. But I was able to find out that Jason had been in prison before for a violent encounter that he had back in 2013. And Ashley was actually one of the people that was around that day and witnessed this violent encounter, whatever it was. And because Jason was released around the time that Ashley disappeared, some have suspected that maybe he came after her. Maybe she saw something or knew something. So here's what I know about this violent encounter. It was June 10th, 2013. Jason and his brother, Jerry Matson, picked up a friend of theirs and went for a drive. Then 2 girls were picked up, and although Ashley's name was not actually mentioned in the report, Kimberly has said Ashley was one of those girls. The 5 of them picked up some alcohol and then went to an area where they could swim, and at some point, a bottle of liquor was dropped into the water and a small fight kind of breaks out. At first, it was a small fight between the girls, but eventually it involved the guys as well. Then it was reported that Jason took out a gun and shot one of his friends that were there in the neck. This friend ended up surviving, but Jason ended up shooting at the other people who were there. This led to his arrest, and he was in prison for 4 years, and he was let out around the time that Ashley disappeared. Now, there's no evidence that points to Jason being responsible for Ashley's disappearance, but I think it's noteworthy, especially because she was one of the people who witnessed this. But that's all the information that there really is on that event that is verifiable. So the FBI actually got involved in this case in 2018. A spokesperson for the Salt Lake City Field Office Unit announced that they would be handling the case, but Kimberly and her family have said that they have truly neglected the case. They've seen nothing done, and they don't feel like any progress is being made. Now, Kimberly, who I think we can all agree has been an absolute hero for her sister through all of this and has really gotten the case to where it's at, she had an opportunity to speak in front of the U.S. Senate Committee on Indian Affairs. She flew to Washington, D.C., and talked about her experience as an Indigenous woman and pointed to the mismanagement of evidence in Ashley's case.
Please look into the law enforcement that do deal with missing and murdered Indigenous women, because our girls, our people, and our men are important.
She also said that Blackfeet tribal law and BIA ignored Ashley's situation and let the investigation move forward very dysfunctionally. And around the time that the FBI actually got involved, the Loring family was granted permission to search a trailer that was known to be a location that Paul and T would like to hang out. And it's also known that Ashley had been inside this trailer on multiple occasions in 2017. And although investigators claim they already searched the trailer, her family found dried blood underneath the carpet. And I know that is just so mind-blowing that a family can find evidence that someone whose job it is to find evidence doesn't actually find, but it does happen. Sometimes families do their own search and they turn up huge things like that.
Yeah, it's pretty thick. Almost too thick to be hair.
Right there, see how discolored it is? Does it look like it could be dry blood? Yeah. Oh my gosh, it's like all red.
So just like they bagged up the sweater and boots, they also bagged up a piece of the carpet and sent it in to be processed. But to this day, they haven't gotten any answers about the carpet. And Kimberly says she doesn't know if they ever will, considering they never got answers about the boots and the sweater, which could have been huge.
I don't know if it's going to ever get tested, because we also tried to do it with the sweater. And we're still waiting a whole year for that sweater to be tested.
And this is so heartbreaking, but Kimberly has said that the only way that she's been able to mentally keep fighting is by almost tricking her mind into thinking that they're looking for someone else. She says the thought of her sister being the one who's missing is just unbearable.
Sometimes I wish there's two of me, because I don't know what I'm doing sometimes.
In 2018, their family did get contacted that some remains had been found, and I guess unfortunately and fortunately, they did not belong to Ashley, so they didn't get any answers from that.
You don't want it to be her, but then you want it to be her because, you know, you want peace. We just want her home. You know, we want it to end. It's literally a nightmare that we have to live.
Every day.
Every single day.
It was a very hard day that day, and I hope that they laid that man to rest, and I hope that we will get our closure soon, even if it's Ashley being laid to rest. But what we really want is to her to open that door and come through it.
Finding Ashley is still their number one priority, whether she's passed or alive. And if she has passed, finding her body could give them so many answers. It could point to how she died, who her killer was, where she was last located. But obviously her family is hoping that she's still out there alive somewhere. And every time a body's found and they are alerted and they find out it's not her, it does give them a little bit of hope that maybe she's still out there. Sadly, like many families, Kimberly has received messages from people claiming they know information about what happened to Ashley, or they know where Ashley is, but they want money in exchange for their answers. So every year since her disappearance, the Loring family and the Blackfeet community have hosted Ashley's Walk. It's a 2-day event that honors Ashley and brings awareness to the cases of other Indigenous people who have gone missing.
This was my sister Ashley's room. After my sister went missing, I moved into her room. This is her graduation picture. That's her necklace right here. It feels really weird being in there by myself sometimes. I stay up all night, and when I do fall asleep, I wake up and I wait for her to come to the door, but she never does.
So there's obviously still hope that one day Ashley's family will know what happened to her, or that maybe she will return to them. And I know that you guys are going to feel very frustrated with this case, the way that the evidence was handled, the lack of urgency from law enforcement, and there's something that you can do with that frustration, you guys. First of all, you can contact BIA and Blackfeet law enforcement, and I will have information about how to do that below, as well as a little sample of how you can request justice in Ashley's case. Also, Kimberly has set up a petition to demand justice for Ashley, and this will be sent to US Congress and the FBI. Right now, there are 54,000 supporters. I know there are thousands of you that watch these videos. If we can get that number up quite a bit, that would be awesome and show that people are still wanting answers for this family and for Ashley. And if you really want to go the extra mile, Kimberly has set up a GoFundMe to help with the search efforts. I will link that below. Right now, there have been 112 donations, about $4,000 raised, and I will be making a personal donation to that. If you are able to, please do so. It does make a huge difference, especially when law enforcement aren't doing the work that needs to be done, and there's a family member or just family in general, but Kimberly has really led the charge. When there's someone like that, it's amazing what can be done. Recently, I had Michelle Platt on my podcast, who's Melissa Platt's sister. I have a video on her case. And when I did the video on her case about 1.5 years ago, we ended up raising a ton through you guys and just through video monetization. And it's actually really paid off. She was able to hire a private investigator. They got the cause of death changed, and the case was reopened. And there's a possibility now that it's going to get solved and justice will be served. So when you take that extra step and make that donation, it can help more than you even know. I recently had her on my podcast, so I'll link that episode below. I think it's a great way to see what can actually come of making donations, what GoFundMes can actually do for victims. So I will have all of that linked below, a nice action plan if you guys would like to make a difference in this case. I really wish I had more information on this case. It was very hard as it is just to go through what little information is available and try to put this together. I know this was confusing, but this case needs more exposure. It truly does. So thank you for watching this whole video, for taking the time to learn about Ashley Loring, HeavyRunner. That is it for me today, guys. I will be back next week, but until then, stay safe out there.